Got it. I'm Johnny Smith, 45 years old. I'm just your average office worker. I work at a small trading company. After graduating from college, I joined this company, and the only other person who joined the same year as me was my colleague, Mike. Our mentor named Alan helped us newbies out. I've known Alan for over 10 years now. Mike and I have been working under him since we joined. We both admired him and worked hard to be like him. Now, we're trusted by our major clients, without any major mistakes. But I never imagined something like this could happen.
What are you talking about?
My voice echoed in the quiet meeting room. There were my boss named Bob, Alan, and me in the room.
What do you mean? Please explain.
As I spoke, Bob coughed and told me to calm down, but there was no way I could stay calm.
Apparently, there's an issue with your project, and the client is quite upset.
My project?
He sighed deeply and showed me a document. It was a product order requested by a major client. When I asked what was going on, it turned out there was a mistake in the order, and I was the one who had prepared the document. However, I had no recollection of that. I remembered the project. The thing is, I was not in charge of the project, Mike was. Actually, Alan had taken over the order request instead of Mike. At that time, Mike had to leave early due to a high fever. The deadline was near, and the order needed to be rushed. So, Alan said he would take over and send him home. I saw that happen, and I'm sure other staff did too. I really trusted Alan. So, I never thought I'd be betrayed by him.
Your signature is on it, Johnny.
I wasn't involved in this project. Members of our department know that.
As I confronted Bob, Alan quietly showed me the documents. There was a signature I didn't recognize as my own. I looked at Alan in disbelief, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Instead, he was handing the documents over to Bob.
What's done is done. But refusing to acknowledge the facts and your attitude are unacceptable. Moreover, this incident has caused a significant loss to the company. Can you cover this loss? If you're going to act like this, I'm sorry, but we have to consider our options.
I understood what Bob's meaningful words implied. He wanted me to take responsibility.
If you're willing to take responsibility, I won't stop you. The company is in a tough spot, and we don't chase after those who lead.
The economy is tough, and companies are being stricter with exploitative enterprises. At job centers, they even avoid placing new graduates in such companies. For that reason, there are strict rules, including whether employees have been fired for company reasons in the past. So, they often pressure employees into voluntarily resigning. Being fired would allow me to collect unemployment benefits immediately but would tarnish my record. Why should I be fired for something I didn't do? I argued that it wasn't my responsibility and that other employees knew it. But Bob wouldn't listen to me because of the circumstantial evidence. I've had doubts about the company's methods before, but this incident was unforgivable. Do I need to cling to this company? Upon reflection, maybe it's time to say goodbye and look for a new job. Of course, I felt frustrated. But with momentum, I said to Bob,
"Then I'll bring in my resignation letter."
And left the meeting room. I went back to my desk, grabbed my things, and headed for the elevator. Then I heard the sound of someone hurrying after me. Turning around, I saw Mike running towards me with a pale face.
"What's the hurry? You still are so energetic, huh?"
It's you. What are you doing carrying your stuff?
"I've decided to leave the company today."
What? Why?
"Oh, you haven't heard. It's about that project when you were out sick. Seems like we upset a valuable client."
Without mentioning who, he seemed to understand. Mike and I had been competing and growing together since we joined the company, but I didn't want him to feel responsible for this incident. I just said,
See ya.
and left the company. I heard my name being called from behind but pretended not to hear. I wonder if Mike didn't catch on. I'm worried that my forced smile was obvious. Honestly, I was angry with Bob and Alan's handling of the situation, and I nearly punched Alan. Moreover, I almost blamed Mike, saying,
It was your fault.
but acting out would only worsen my position. I held back, not wanting to cause any more trouble for Mike and the others.
I need to find a new job quickly.
Sitting at my computer at home, I held my head in my hands. When I submitted my resignation, Bob let me use up my remaining paid leave. I need to find a new job during this time. After all, I have a wife and children. We just found out we're expecting our second child. My wife Lucy and I may be about 10 years apart, but she's now 35. We've been trying for a second child since our first son was born, but it wasn't happening. As I got older, I was starting to give up hope.
Can't have the dad being unemployed with a new baby on the way.
Over coffee, Lucy gave me a wry smile. That day, I came home and cried a lot for the first time in decades. As I wept about being fired, Lucy listened quietly. Thinking back on it now, I still feel embarrassed.
Can't you complain to a union or something?
It's fine. I was treated like trash by Alan, whom I trusted.
But you've worked so hard.
It's a tough economy now, so the company doesn't want to be an exploitative enterprise.
As I half-heartedly spoke, Lucy seemed a bit sulky. Honestly, I wanted to sulk under the covers, but my pride as a man wouldn't allow it. Even now, my pride keeps me from being honest about my feelings. Knowing me well, she said,
Take your time looking for something else if it means you'll end up somewhere strange again.
Her kindness warmed my troubled heart, but I couldn't just rely on her kindness.
I'll try a bit harder. Maybe it's a good opportunity to try a different industry.
That sounds like a good idea.
The next day, my job hunt began in earnest. At the beginning, I could find something quickly, I thought. However, I was naive to think so. I was met with rejection after rejection. I should have saved more money, knowing this could happen. It's hard for a skill-less man to find a mid-career position. I got close in some places, but when I explained why I left my last job, everyone hesitated. I didn't say I was fired, but quitting without a reason. No wonder they doesn't look good about it. Collecting referral letters from job agencies, I drove to my house, feeling empty. By now, I should have been working on a different project. On my way to the house, I remembered I was hungry. Apparently, I was so worried that I forgot how hungry I was. As they say, an army marches on its stomach. That reminded me, Lucy mentioned there's a new deli nearby that's supposed to be good.
Might as well pick some up on the way home.
With that thought, I headed to the deli Lucy recommended. The deli run by an elderly couple was bustling with business.
Looks busy.
I thought as I waited in line to pay, when a "Help Wanted" sign at the register caught my eye. I was currently using up my paid leave, but it was almost up. Just aimlessly job searching would only drain my savings. I remembered hearing that part-time work was allowed at my old company, and some of the temp staff were juggling multiple jobs. Maybe it would be better to bridge the gap with a part-time job. With that thought, I looked more closely. Embarrassing as it is, I don't feel like I can land a full-time job right away. Maybe it is better to fill the gap for now.
Interested in the job posting, sir?
The lady at the register asked, and I found myself nodding before I knew it.
I have no experience in customer service. Is that okay?
Thus, I decided to work part-time at the deli for a while. The elderly couple didn't mind my age at all, welcoming me with,
You're like a son to us.
I didn't expect such a warm welcome and was grateful to the shop owner and his wife. I worked 6 days a week, from the busy lunch rush until the evening. At 45, that was my first experience in customer service, and though it was hard to keep up, I managed to get by with the skills I'd honed in sales.
I'm home.
Hi, Johnny.
I got some fried chicken and potato salad from the shop, so let's have those for dinner.
Thank you, that helps a lot.
Still, I couldn't keep working part-time forever. I worked hard and continued to search for a full-time job in my free time. Then, after about 2 weeks of that routine, something unexpected happened. Lucy had taken our child and gone back to her parents' house. I discovered it when I came home from work one day. The lights were off in our usually bright home, and Lucy and son's belongings were gone. I noticed the change as soon as I got home and felt a chill. I tried calling her, but she didn't answer. In the living room, there was a note saying,
I'm going to my parents' house for a bit.
I never thought something out of drama series would happen to me.
How come? Is it because I'm only working part-time?
I didn't think she was angry. If anything, she seemed worried about my panic. So then, why? My mind was in turmoil, but I remembered that she lately had seemed stressed and worried. I was so preoccupied with my own issues that I hadn't listened to her. Had she run out of patience with me? My thoughts spiraled negatively. I thought about going after her right away and contacted the deli owners, but they advised against it. They suggested it might be better to find a stable job first to reassure her. I knew they were right. Currently, I could only earn through part-time work, and that might lead my family to a dead end.
I need to find a proper job and then go get them.
With that decision, it was clear I had to look for work. Though it was tough, I spent my days juggling the part-time job and job hunting. Luckily, Lucy would reply when I messaged her on WhatsApp. It was a relief she hadn't mentioned divorce. I never knew when she might bring it up, though. I feared it might be my life forever. I couldn't waste even a moment before or after my part-time shifts and kept sending out resumes to find work. A month was about to pass since Lucy left. To make matters worse, I hadn't found a job. Furthermore, my paid leave was running out in a few days. Although I panicked the deadline approached, I actively pursued interviews. It was for Lucy, who still contacted me, and for our children. Then one day, while stocking shelves at the deli, I heard someone say,
Look at that, there's the loser old man.
Turning around, I saw a boy, about 7 years old, standing in front of the shop.
Hi there. Are you here to shop?
Goodbye from you, loser.
With that, the boy stuck his tongue out at me and ran off. Why does a strange boy have to call me a loser? Feeling a bit annoyed inside, I watched the boy run off and then froze.
Alan.
Oh, long time no see, Johnny.
Good to see you.
To be honest, I didn't really want to see him. I had admired and respected him, but I didn't want him to see me working a part-time job at the deli. I would have preferred to tell him I'd found a new job. I knew running away wasn't going to solve anything. I took a deep breath and looked at Alan.
Are you off today?
Yeah, it's my son's birthday today.
I see.
You're working part-time. Tough break.
He said it like it was someone else's problem, laughing, and I felt anger bubbling up inside. The boy who had just insulted me appeared to be his child. I wasn't sure if he always spoke like that at home, but it wasn't something to say to a stranger. Still, the boy is Alan's son. Biting my lip, I could only give him a forced smile. It felt like I was seeing a side of my once admired boss I hadn't seen before.
Have you found a new job yet? You have another child on the way next year, right?
Finding a job is actually tough. But working here part-time is helping me get by.
I guess so. I have a 2-year-old daughter as well as this son. You resigning in my place really helped me out. Thanks.
Loser, you got fired, right? Dad was laughing about it.
Hey, well, it's all water under the bridge. Let's have a beer sometime and forget about it.
Alan lightly scolded his son and then gave me his usual disarming smile. I couldn't understand how he could say such things to someone he had wronged. I was dumbfounded. He seemed pleased with himself, laughing through his nose at my silent response. I was on the verge of exploding with anger, hearing him talk about his promotion next year as if it were thanks to me. I had no proof, but because of him, I was struggling so much. Lucy had left home, and I couldn't live with my child anymore.
I can't stay here with him.
As I instinctively felt I needed to return to work, and said,
"Well, I should get back."
When I was about to head back to the deli,
Johnny, hold on.
I heard my name and a familiar male voice. Instinctively, I looked in the direction of the voice. When Alan and I both looked, we saw Mike coming from across the intersection out of breath. In his suit, he seemed quite exhausted from running uncharacteristically for his age. He was heavily panting. Yet, he ran from the intersection towards us and blurted out to me,
"Stay away from Alan. You can't go any further."
Confused, I stared blankly at my ex-colleague, while Alan had a grim expression with hiding his son behind him. Upon closer inspection, I noticed Alan's son activating a camera, and I couldn't help but look at the two.
"What's going on? It's a weekday, isn't it?"
Although weekends didn't mean much to me anymore since starting my part-time job, that day was a weekday, and Mike should have been at work. Thinking it wasn't good to cause a scene in front of the store, I asked the store manager if we could talk. Both he and his wife kindly told me to go ahead. I took all of them appeared suddenly to a nearby cafe. Alan's son also came along, seemingly clueless and engrossed in a parfait. He might be the same age or a bit older than my son. I thought they could have been friends if they had met.
"Alan, you brought your son to."
That's...
I reported it to Bob. "Why Johnny was fired over a project you had nothing to do with?"
Mike explained the situation, taking over for a hesitant Alan. It seemed that after I left the company, Mike had been protesting to Bob.
"I was puzzled when I heard Johnny was fired because of the signature on this document. So I asked Alan about it. Show him the document."
I was shocked when I looked at the document and saw Alan's face turning red with anger. After finishing his son's parfait, Alan stood up, saying,
Excuse us.
and left.
"Johnny, I'm sorry."
That was all he said before briskly walking away, leaving me dumbfounded, staring at the document. The document Mike showed me was the original paper for that project. The signature was Alan's, and he had written everything, including the date and order signature.
"What's going on? Bob showed me one with my name."
"Actually, this was collected by your wife and me."
"Wait. Lucy was supposed to be fed up with me and went back to her parents."
Hearing my trembling voice, Mike narrowed his eyes.
"Your wife. She wanted to know why you didn't go to the Labor Standards Inspection Office over the unfair dismissal. So she came to the company. I noticed her before she met Alan and talked to her."
I was surprised to hear Lucy had secretly visited my workplace.
"Your wife worked for the client involved in this project, right? After hearing my story, she approached me to help."
So, her story was just.
"Didn't your wife say anything? If I've caused any misunderstandings, I'm sorry."
But Mike, even with this document, will Bob?
"Bob said to come to the company tomorrow."
Even with evidence, I wondered if he would really listen to me. Still, I was relieved to know Mike and Lucy had been gathering information behind the scenes. Trying to hide my tears, I gulped down my now cold coffee. I never expected Mike to stand up to Alan like that, but I was grateful.
"Thank you,"
I said, and he replied with a smile.
"We still have a lot to do together."
The next day, I knocked on the meeting room door with my resignation letter in hand.
"Excuse me."
It was the same as that time, with Bob and Alan present, but this time, Mike is also here. Other than that, it was all too familiar, unavoidably reminding me of that moment. When Bob invited me to sit, I compiled without hesitation. The first to speak was Bob.
I'm sorry.
I was taken aback when he suddenly apologized.
I would like to pretend your resignation never happened.
It seemed too convenient, and as I looked puzzled, Alan began to weep. I didn't expect him to cry, and I was flustered. According to Alan, he wanted that project badly for his promotion. Lately, his personal life hadn't been going well, and he was frustrated, leading to his mistake. Seeing me, who was doing well at work and had a happy family, while he was being served divorce papers by his wife, filled him with unbearable resentment, and his hatred only grew. That's why he pinned his mistake on me. It seems that the signature was written to resemble my handwriting. Just as I was starting to feel relieved, I learned that he came to my part-time job, provoked me into a potential violent incident, planning to make it impossible for me to return.
To think of you or Mike taking my position, I couldn't stand it and acted rashly. I am truly a weak person.
Pressured both at work and home, he had lost the ability to discern right from wrong. Watching Alan cry, Mike looked at him with pity, but I was surprised that Alan harbored jealousy towards me. I also had thought of hitting him when he visited my part-time job, for the same reason. Of course, what he did was inexcusable. I was just envying him, who had what I lacked. Hating him for possessing what I did not, made me realize we were similar in our feelings, strangely dissipating my anger.
Alan, please let me work again. I will make up for my failure.
As I asked to shake hands with Alan, Mike smiled by my side. Thus, my firing was retracted. I saw in Alan a reflection of my once ready-to-fight self. The difference between him and me was having supportive friends and a wife. I wanted to express my deepest gratitude to them. After a while, Lucy safely gave birth to a girl. We named her Hope, inspired by Lucy and Mike. They supported me when I was down, so I hoped my daughter would grow to be someone who could give hope to others. After that day, I told Lucy that my resignation was reversed. She decided to stay a bit longer at her parents' house after giving a birth. She had pondered what to do after hearing my story, realizing that facing my former workplace was difficult but wanting to know more about my case. Secretly, she had returned to her parents only to leave our son with them. When I mentioned fearing she wanted a divorce, I got a lengthy lecture.
You take on too much alone. I really wished you had relied on me this time.
Proudly, she boasted about her achievements at the company. Alan was demoted by Bob after the incident. Although firing or resigning were options, given the support I received and my understanding, the company decided his demotion. Now he is working quietly in a subsidiary an hour away. I didn't pry into his personal life. He seemed to feel guilty about forging the documents and accepted his discipline. I visited the deli where I briefly worked to say goodbye and shared that I was returning to my old company. The elderly couple was as happy for me as if I were their own son. They told me to visit anytime. A month after Hope was born, my work stabilized, and I went to pick up Lucy and our children from her parents' home. I was overjoyed to be living with my family again after a few months.
I plan to work part-time at the deli once Hope is in daycare.
That sounds great. Give my regards to the owners.
The elderly couple had warmly invited her when we went to greet them with our children. I was incredibly happy to be married to such a courageous and kind wife, surrounded by my two loving kids. Determined to be a respected husband and father, I committed to striving harder for our everlasting happiness.